blind walk me into a hotel. Okay.
Blind
walk.
You have no idea what you're expecting.
So I open my eyes. I see the hotel for the first time. I meet an owner I'd never laid eyes on, never spoken to, don't even know his name 90% of the time, and I go. That is so stressful because, from my perspective, you're like, well, you care about ratings and you care about looking good and the TV show. No, that person asked me to come into their business and ask them to save their business. So after the show got popular, it's that, the hotel guy's going to come, he's going to save me.
Right.
So that comes with a lot of stress.
I was about to say, it seems very one way, like it's all up to you and not them.
Well, did anybody happen to see the latest show? I think it was on this morning again. There was one.
We got some hands up, yeah?
There was one that was on this morning. What's that? No, there was the Cape Cod one. That's a good one. There's a new one that will run again tonight or this week. I'm in Sandusky, Ohio. I walked out. I hate to kind of kill the show for you. I walked out.
No, it's not the result, it's the drama that ensued. So tell me a little bit about how you've never walked out in a show. I mean,
4 times.
4 times you've walked out.
You watched my
never
show?
gone back.
You watched my show?
I just haven't seen all of them.
Hi, I'm Anthony. Nice to meet you.
Glenn,
I do
nice
a
to meet you.
show.
But 4 times?
four times. So I walked out because it's not about, and I remember the first time I walked out of a show, I was up in the Catskills. I think, and I walked out.
Do you watch your show?
And I was actually, and my director said to me, "You can't leave." I said, "The only thing I have to do in life is die and pay taxes. I can do whatever the hell I want. I'm a fully grown man." And I left, and we still got a show, but I don't do it for the drama. I'm a respect guy, right?
Yeah.
So if you respect me, I'll respect you.
Right.
And if a friend asks me to do me a favor, if I can do it, I'm going to do it. So if you ask me to come help you, listen to me.
Right.
When I leave, do whatever the hell you want. But show me the respect to at least listen to me and listen to my team. And if you don't, I'm not going to really, I grew up in Brooklyn. I'm not going to spend a lot of time.
No, right. So you got the same problem as I do. Everybody
Right,
tells
Justin?
you you're so direct.
Justin used to work, me and Justin used to work together. I have a lot of patience.
All right, someone's saying yes.
Yes, no.
Oh, he's really saying a lot of nice things about you. The most amazing person, the most...
Best sales manager I've ever worked with.
Right.
It's true.
Excellent. So there's a good time to remind you, hey, get a free night at Best Western, only 10,000 points. That's an amazing deal, and while I'm at it, sign up for the No Vacancy newsletter. Text the word hotel to 66866. I gotta get some PR too.
Now, Ron Paul,
yes,
who runs
Best
Western, right?
The COO.
The COO, I called him up one day, and we were talking about something. I did a speaking engagement for him, and we were talking about something, and he goes, "Hey, I was in the airport, and I signed your autograph." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Somebody came over because you look alike." And it's a true story. You can ask him. And he said, "Yeah, they thought that was you, so I went with it. I signed your autograph, took a picture."
I wish I knew that last week when I was at their annual conference in Nashville. That's really funny. So I want to know a little bit more about extreme hotels and where that sort of world is going. People seem very interested in that because those hotels that you're dealing with are very different than the average hotel that each and every one of us will stay in. So tell us a little bit about how those worlds come together.
Well, what's the one word, I'm going to ask everybody in this audience, hopefully we can say it together. What's the one word that we talk about every day in every meeting and everybody's worried about? It starts with an M. Money. No, besides money. Millennial.
Oh.
Right? If I hear one more survey or one more person say anything about millennial, I'm going to hit them with a millennial.
Right.
Okay? It's not, so what I'm seeing is these extreme hotels, everybody wants an experience.
Right.
Millennials want an experience. So
they want experience or just a place to sit and look at their phones?
Exactly. They want to be in Peru and look at their phones and make sure they have Wi-Fi. Yeah. And that's funny because when you go to these extreme hotels, these isolated hotels, no longer are you finding people that say, you know what, we're not going to give you Wi-Fi. It's demanded no matter where you are. If you're in the jungle of Peru, we still need to get Wi-Fi. So what I'm seeing is that kind of hotel. But what I say is, I'm 52 years old. I want that kind of hotel too.
Right.
I'm an adventure traveler. It's not just for the millennial. So don't look at your business just for millennial. I never look at a business for a certain person. Clean room, nice service, and a great experience transcends, your age,
Right.
decades.
I am so sick and tired of everybody being millennials. Hey, nothing wrong with you millennials, except that you're younger and more attractive than I am. But other than that, we do make that mistake as a business for not realizing that all of us are changing. Consumer behavior is drastically moving in a different direction than it was 10 years ago. It's just the millennials are more obvious about those changes. But you and I want the same things.
Well, if you look at the bed, going back when they did the bed.
I just stayed in a West Inn last night, as a matter of fact, and the heavenly bed, I was thinking about that.
So all of a sudden they said, okay, the heavenly bed. Now, they didn't do that for the millennial. They did, hey guys, they didn't do that for the millennials. They did that because that was the right thing to do for their customer, their guest. And they realized, oh, it's the bed, stupid. So usually invention or creativity comes out of a need. Okay, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get in front of the millennials.
Right.
We're trying to get in front of our guests, which is great, but don't give them something they don't need, just to be first.
Right.
I'll give you an example. How many times when Ian Schrager opened the Morgan's Hotel 75 years ago, right? When he opened it up in the early 1980s, how many years were other people designing Ian Schrager-ish hotels when Ian Schrager stopped designing hotels? How many times did you walk into a hotel and it's like, oh, that's old, but it's brand new? I couldn't walk into a hotel in New York City for 15 years and not tell it wasn't an Ian Schrager hotel, because everybody's chasing this guy and he's onto something else.
Yes.
And that's, when people say, why'd you do this TV show? Because nobody else was doing it. The last thing I want to do is take over a hotel that's running well, because I'll just kill it. I have to take over a mess, or take over a TV show that's doing well. You know, I'm not that guy. I'm a guy that wants to be creative.
Right.
So
I'm that guy. If anybody wants to give me something, I'll take it.
so what I was talking to a bunch of Cornell students on Saturday, and they said, you know, what's the secret? You know, don't you love that? Don't you love that idea when people say, what's the secret? You know, what's the secret? I don't know. Maybe get up in the morning, brush your teeth, and work your ass off?
Right.
Maybe that's the secret?
You mean it's not half-ass it, and just leave early every day from work?
You know, it's like, I think I quoted something this morning, you know, you can outsmart people sometimes, but you can outwork somebody all the time.
Right.
You know, and I said to them, I said, when you're born with a brand, right? If you have children, you know, like one student is studying, one student isn't, one will take out the garbage, one won't. One of your kids will do that. So we are all born with a brand. Anybody in this audience that knows me from the show or just knows working with me, I guarantee you, separate you, you're all going to come back with the same thing. Okay? He's a pain in the ass, but he gets the job done.
Right.
So everybody wakes up in the morning and has a brand. So worry about your brand, whether it be your hotel or the way you present yourself. And if it's creative and if you're passionate about it, like my friends here, you will, the Roxbury Contemporary Hotel, I talk about all the time because you can just see the passion come through.
Yes, yes.
You know, they were putting in a sink in the bathroom in the lobby, and you would have thought, you know, they gave birth to 75 kids. It's like, it was the greatest thing that's ever happened. You know, and that's passion. That's what's missing.
So then how do you find your brand? Because you deal with a lot of people that have independent hotels and have this particular point of view, but are they connecting with what that brand is? And how much of your job is helping them find what their true passion is and the direction to bring their hotel going forward?
Well, it's kind of two questions, right? There's some people aren't passionate about the final product that their guests see. They're just passionate about the bottom line, which is fine. Then just get a really good team to do that for you.
Right.
Okay, but if you're trying to bring your passion, you know, a young lady asked me on Saturday at Cornell, she said, I said to them, I said, the last question was mine, I asked them, I said, if you can wipe away everything, what decade would you go back to? And the young lady who's kind of running the show, she raised her hand, she goes, Lewis and Clark, because everything is brand new. And I get to explore, and I get to hike, and I get to see everything for the first time. So I think a little something went off in our brain and realized, oh, I should probably be an adventure traveler, maybe a writer, because that's what I want to do. So I know what I want to do. You know, if somebody says, what is next for me? Okay, I want to talk to college students. If I can make a living going around the world and talk to college students or talk to high school students, I would do that. Not about hospitality.
Right.
but about believing in your brand. And screw the teachers, screw the parents, screw even my own kids. Screw what I want. What do you want?
Right.
You know, and then I will make that happen for you. And I think that that's really important. We all get stuck, and then all of a sudden we have to have a certain income, we have to work in a certain area, and then all of a sudden we're in this job that we hate, but we can't stop doing it because we can't afford to stop doing it.
Well, that's, I think, a big fundamental problem with life in general is finding what you're passionate about and being able to make money while doing that passion. Mm-hmm. So you found what you were passionate about, and you turned it into an amazing career where, you know, everybody wants to hear what you have to say. So how do you go from being a hotel manager and owning a management company into industry personality? This is where I got to take some notes over here.
I don't know.
You just.
I have no idea.
Excellent.
I mean,
I love the insight.
I think if you ask anyone that knows me, I haven't changed even a little bit.
Right.
Just because I know it can all be taken away tomorrow. You know, I can be walking through the show tomorrow and nobody knows who I am, or I can be calling for, you know, somebody stop calling me for a keynote engagement, mm-hmm. or college students will stop wanting my opinion, or you'll start wanting to do podcasts with me. So I don't worry about what happened yesterday or
right.
what happened, what's in front of me. And, you know, what gets lost is whether I'm on TV or whether it's hotels, it's about the team that's surrounding you. It's not me. It's never me. It's about the team. So one of the things I think, if I'm good at something, it's I don't suffer fools, and I make sure that the talent rises and I get out of the way.
Right.
Because talent don't want people that aren't talented around them, because that brings them down, and you see it in every business. You start to see it. So what I do, and you know what? That doesn't mean I like everybody. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people I work with that are on my team that I love, but I wouldn't have coffee with them if they lived on my block. Mm-hmm. Okay? And that's okay. You know, and those people probably, sometimes they don't even like me.
Right.
But that's okay. Mm-hmm. Can I respect them? Can I give them their due? And can I give them a map to do their job? Something jumps up. Justin, Intercontinental, Sunday night, having a drink, worrying about a piece of business that everybody didn't want, but you wanted it, and I said, do what you want, right? And it was the best piece of business we ever got. It was a Sunday night in August. It was for like, what, 3 weeks? It was 3 weeks in August, and everybody knows New York knows that, you know, August, especially, it's terrible. And I literally had to get out of the hotel and talk to you and say, whatever you want to do, we're going to do. And he's one of the best salespeople I've ever met. Yep. And that's what it's about. You know, it's about taking a bullet for your team. You know, and everybody said no. The owner of the hotel said no. Right. And I took it anyway, and it was the best thing we ever did.
So beyond that, how do you make sure that each and every person on your team is able to be as effective as possible and grows as an individual and feels like they have a career?
Well, first of all, it's a hiring process. I get people all the time that say, well, I sent my resume and nobody's calling me back. Well, yeah, nobody calls you back when you send a resume. Right. People want to see you. People want to see the envelope. People want to, you know, see eye contact. Do something to get noticed. So that's, when you do that, hire that person, because that person's going to do more than somebody else. But it's really just a hiring process. Right. Is hire right, and then give them the ability to do their job and give them all the tools. Get out of their way and hold them accountable. One of the words that we don't talk about
I think that's a great
is
point.
Accountability.
Yeah.
Everybody knows any team I've ever worked on, they'll have a blank canvas and they'll be able to do what they want to do, but they will be held accountable. And because I'm accountable. Mm-hmm. I'm accountable to the owner. If the owner's not making money, we can't have fun.
Right.
And I'm about fun. I'm not about work. Yeah. All I want to do is have fun. And that's, you know, I think that's the secret, is hire right. You know, I got really much better at hiring, you know, in my career. I've made a lot of mistakes, and then finally I started to realize I don't care about experience, I care about potential.
Now, last week I was speaking at the Best Western Conference with Catherine Lugar, and she's the CEO of the American Hotel and Lodging Association. She says there's 600,000 open jobs in the hospitality industry. It makes it a lot more challenging for a guy like you to find the right people to hire. How do you work through that system now that there's less of an available pool of people and more hotels than ever before?
Well, I just go on my LinkedIn and say, hey, Anthony Melchiorri's got a job, and I get a lot of resumes.
All right, so you cheat. All right, next question from the audience.
No, it's,
yeah?
Listen, I want to see something different about the resume, But more than not, I'll get 3 or 4 or 5 resumes that come through snail mail or
Right.
somebody will show up. I remember when I was a young manager, the number 2 job at the Waldorf Astoria was open, and I was 29 and I applied for it. You know how I had a resume.
Right.
I drove to the front desk. My mother dropped me off
Yeah.
and was waiting in the car, and I gave the envelope to the front desk. And Eric Long, we all know Eric,
Yep.
okay? Eric Long called me. I did 17 interviews, and he eventually offered me the job.
Woo.
Unfortunately, I couldn't take the job, but because I got myself in front of everybody else. I
Yeah.
didn't mail it. I handed it to the front desk person.
That's
and
right.
he called me.
Yeah, I think that makes a big difference when you're trying to make an impact. I had a buddy that was in the music video industry, and he started off going to all these production houses, dropping off VHS tapes and trying to make friends with everybody. And then before you knew it, he was cutting all the hot rap videos in
Right.
the late 1990s, right?
Right.
So if you put the effort out there, it makes a big difference. All right, next question from you folks out there. Yes, sir.
So Hotel Impossible is you're taking really disastrous hotels and you're trying to turn them around. And it's sometimes, being in this industry, it's really hard to watch because it's painful to see hotels that are doing so horribly. Like the one in Cape Cod was really hard for me to watch. It was just, you start shredding the awning and the owner has no interest in being there. Have you ever thought about doing Hotel Possible, taking a 3 or 4 star hotel, making them great?
Yeah.
So let me just repeat that question for the home audience. So what he's saying is instead of doing Hotel Impossible, take some of those great hotels, make it what it is possible.
Well, I kind of do that in my consulting business. I do that every day in my consulting business. We do a hotel called 5 Star Secrets. Right, you've seen that show? Right, and we're doing a show called Extreme Hotels. There's nothing right now lined up to do a 3 or 4 star hotel and get it to kind of the next level. And I'll tell you why, to be quite honest with you. It's boring, okay? And you're not gonna, I don't think it's boring. I think it's more interesting. But to sell that would be difficult. So what I tried to do through Extreme Hotels, through 5 Star Secrets, and maybe that show will eventually come because I've been fortunate enough and lucky enough to these things just kind of bubble. And we've had 4 shows in 8 years. So that's potential. And that's one of the reasons I do these things like this and I speak a lot is because when I went on TV, I can't tell you how heavy it was for me. Here I am, known as a fixer in New York City, and I go around and I help hotels, and I have a little bit of a name, and everybody that knew me thought I was out of my mind. You go on reality TV, you're going to screw up your career. And
Really?
I wasn't worried about screwing up my career. What I was worrying about was screwing up the industry.
Right.
Is insulting people in the industry, whether it be you, whether it be other people in the industry. And I wanted to show them what we deal with. I wanted to show the world that we just don't give you a key, because everybody just knows the front desk agent, right?
Right.
They don't know their salespeople. They have no idea a show like this exists. They have no idea that there's aquatics directors, that there's a dolphin trainer at the Atlantis, that there's so many facets to our industry. And by the outpouring that I get from our industry, I think we've done that well. And so that was very stressful for me. So yes, it's hard for you to see as being in the industry, but what we've done is we were able to be a consumer-based brand, meaning that hopefully people in this room think it's a real show and that I know what the heck I'm talking about. But just as important, if not more important, that the consumer knows what to look for. So they look for hotels like the Roxbury and the good brands, not they go online and say, you know what, let me just try. Matter of fact, the show that was on today and last week, a young lady saw that they had all kinds of problems. She goes, but it's cheap, so let me go. Well, she ran out of there, literally on camera, and it wasn't staged. So that doesn't maybe answer your question directly, but it's really important, as hard as it is. Believe me, you think I want to go in and talk about bed bugs and cleanliness and not treating your housekeepers right? I think I've been in the industry long enough that I can provide asset management, revenue management, design, and really talk about that at a very high level and be really passionate about that. But unfortunately, I walk into these hotels and I can't. Some hotels I walk into, when I do that, that is the more boring the show is,
The better it is.
the happier I am.
Right. But that's unfortunately, it's tough because that's not good for ratings and getting renewed.
But I've never once, and anybody that's ever been on my set and anybody in Travel Channel will tell you, I've never done one thing ever. Matter of fact, I've been told, hey, why aren't you upset at that person? I was like, because I'm thinking through the solution, and I don't feel like yelling at that person because it's not their fault. You know, I'm not going to raise my voice or be angry at somebody just because I was told to. That usually comes from, as a matter of fact, in the last show, oh my God, it was the angriest I've ever been in my life. And it was real because he was so disrespectful to a 17-year-old young lady that was a supervisor of his aquatics park, and she failed a test, and he didn't care. And she had a bed bug, and he wouldn't go into her house and exterminate it for free. And I lost my mind. And that's the stuff I get upset about. But if somebody's making a mistake and it's an honest mistake,
right,
I don't care.
No, yeah, obviously you shouldn't care, but if you want to do things like focus on revenue management and stuff, does that translate into good TV for the masses, or is it only for us wonky people here in the audience?
Well, it's only if you do it in a visual way, which
Right.
we've done.
Right.
So yeah, if we do it in a visual way, because then audience members like to know. I always make the example of, going back 20 years ago, everybody knew if you're sitting in one seat, somebody in an airplane, somebody's paying $500, another person's paying $1,000, and we never questioned that. Well, same thing in the hotel business. Mm-hmm. So when you show them that, they're like, oh, that happens in the hotel business too? And it's like, it's not fair that December 7th, in New York City, the same room I can get on January 4th is $900.
Right.
Well, no, it is fair because the people that own that hotel and pay those employees have the same bills on January 7th as they do on December 7th.
That's right.
And I don't find that charging $900 for Christmas week is a bad thing. I think, like I always tell my friends, come January 7th. Don't come
Right, it's
December 9th.
basic economics.
The whole world comes down to New York, and the people that want to pay the most money are gonna win.
Right. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So one more plug, then I got a great question for you. So again, check out bestwestern.com, Best Western Rewards. Get a free night, only 10,000 points. How amazing is that? But also check out our podcasts at novacancynews.com. If you want, subscribe to the newsletter. Text the word hotel to 66866. But Anthony, question for you. Do you have a great success story? You really went in there, transformed someone's business, and they really just got it.
Yeah, there was a young lady in Wisconsin, and she's going to yell at me if she's watching, I can't remember her name. And I don't want to go too far into details, but there was a lot of personal issues as well as professional issues. And because I was honest and very direct with her,
right.
And we fought in the beginning, if you remember the show, it's when I walked in and her dogs wanted to attack me.
Yeah.
And she wanted to attack me. And we're friends, and we hug and we kiss, and it's a great relationship. And her business has been turned around. Matter of fact, it was a revenue management show where I showed her in her area that I tried it out, and there was from May 15th to September 15th, there were 3 days that weren't sold out. And sold out to me was 98% or above.
Right.
Right? But nobody in her area, and she was the only hotel that was on the lake. Okay? The other ones were on the lake, but she had a beach access to the lake.
Sounds like she's missing a lot of opportunity.
So she goes, but if I raise my rates, my competitors will kill me. We're all we all stay in this range. I said, I personally guarantee you, okay, and anything you lose, is the first time I've ever done that,
Yeah.
I will personally make you whole. She was really reluctant. And I said, they're going to yell at you, and then they're going to kiss you and love you. Mm-hmm. She made $300,000 more that summer.
Wow.
Okay, and everybody raised their rates. And now they do revenue management, and rates in that area are very high sometimes. But when you're running 100% occupancy and you're in a seasonal location, you got to survive.
Right, and you shouldn't even try to get 100% occupancy, right? You should keep pushing those rates to hopefully always have that one room for someone to show up at 11:55 p.m., right?
What do I always say? The last person to sell out wins.
Yeah, right. Absolutely right. Next question from you folks.
Any design questions? This is the design show.
Yeah.
Let's talk about design.
Come on, we are at BDNY. We got
Yes,
a question
sir.
over here.
Come over here.
Yeah, come on in. You take a look at that camera also.
Hey, I'm Anthony.
Neil.
That's Glenn.
Hey, Neil.
So my question was, a lot of brands are coming up with innovations, and they want the owners to implement it. But where's the ROI on that? How do we determine that if something is actually worth doing, or if it's a completely new design? How do us as an owner, how can we make that change?
Excellent. So ROI on design is the fundamental question.
Well, first do your research about brands, right? Because there's not a lot that's left to the imagination when it comes to brands. You know what you're getting, right? You tell me which is the hardest brand to work with, I can tell you right now and everybody will agree. What's the easiest brand to work with that will give you leeway, and everybody will agree with me. We all know what brand is easy, what brand is hard. So you have to get in, it's like a marriage, right? You know, fundamentally, when you get married, that person doesn't change. But over the years, whether it be 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, they kind of expand and they kind of change
Is that a
little bit.
weight joke?
What's
right
that? No, I said expand. They kind of, you know, they change a little bit, but they don't fundamentally change. So they're not, and typically they're not changing because just to change. They're changing because they're trying to stay ahead of the curve. There's one brand I won't name. Years ago, about 15 years ago now, threw 400 of their owners out of the brand because they wouldn't do a PIP. Okay, and then they took it, you know, on the chin in their, you know, in their net profit for years, that brand, but eventually that brand came back. And then all the other brands followed suit. So, yes, it's difficult, and always, I got thrown out of, oh boy, I got thrown out of a meeting in Atlanta, and everybody knows what brand is in Atlanta.
Well, there's a lot of things in Atlanta.
Well,
so.
well, there's the
I
major
know,
brand,
right.
and I literally, it's kind of a legendary story. Got thrown out of the brand meeting because I was fighting for an owner for something they wanted. And after 18 presentations, literally, I got frustrated. And I said something, and I was like, well, it's not our fault that this is a problem. This is your fault. Just deal with it, and everything will be, anyway, I was trying to be nice. I got thrown out. So I've been on that side. I fought for the owner. I've always fought for the owner. But what I find fascinating to me is owners that go into these brands and they don't do the work. This is what I say all the time. A brand is there to support you. A brand isn't there to turn the key in the morning. Okay, the brand isn't there to make every critical decision for you. You know, I always say, you know, don't ask what the brand can do for you, ask what you can do for your customer, right? So I'm kind of, I get a little tired, and maybe this is, you know,
Right.
politically incorrect, but I can get away
We
with
like
saying
that,
this.
yeah.
I can get that. Brands are there to support you. You should know the brand that you get into bed with, and you should not have this relationship that sometimes happens where it's contentious. It should be an understanding. And when you don't get your way, there's obviously avenues, you know, in your contract. But a lot of the times, if you look at brands today, the brands that have the 3-star hotels, if you would have said years ago that these brands would be basically taking over our industry, right, and really almost pushing the 4 stars, kind of, you know, they're having a problem, they're struggling. No, you wouldn't have saw it as an owner. I didn't see it, but the brand saw it. They knew what the owner and what the millennial wanted way before we did. That's why you started to see the lobbies expanding, and that's why you started to see room service closing, and you started seeing the front desk person not only check you in, but also make you your sandwich. You started seeing, and then eventually people started giving away free Wi-Fi, thank God, and free water. So that's because the brand did it, okay? You know, the bigger problem to me is how do you figure how to deal with your third party issue, right? Don't blame the brand, okay? That's an on-property issue that very few people do well. That's a bigger issue because that's saving you 20%. Whether it's coming through your brand or it's coming through the third party, you want to get them to make it directly on your website, whether it's the brand website or your website, to save money. And very few people do that well, especially independent hotels.
And what he means by third party is OTAs like Expedia and those sort of things that deliver reservations for you. So all really interesting. I'm fascinated by this whole idea.
Good question.
That you're talking about. But one of the things that I notice is the brands are getting better at speaking to management and owners about what should or should not be included in a hotel, which gets back to what you were talking about earlier, what people want versus what people need.
Well, I think what's happening is the brands, the vice presidents, right, and senior vice presidents and the regional managers, what do they do every day of their life? They travel.
Yeah.
So they're the best people to speak. You know, I think owners sometimes, as well as brands, are short-sighted, right? You're building a brand. You're not building May. You're not building June. You're not building July. You're building a brand. And building a brand is hard, okay? whether it be my own brand or whether it be a hotel brand. It's really hard. So when you're looking at it short term just to make as much money as possible, you know, all businesses, especially hotels, aren't built on a design or aren't built on a bed. They're built on the real estate that it's built on. Does it make sense financially? Okay, and if that makes sense financially, it's going to work.
Right.
Right? And it's going to give you time. What happened in the bubble in New York City, was it now, 10 years ago, whatever longer? The reason you saw all the, you know, implosion and all these hotels going bankrupt is because they didn't buy it right.
Right.
You know, and then the sales managers, and some sales managers maybe be upset with me, but I said the sales managers that were picking up phones and taking orders and forgot to be sales managers and forgot to hit the pavement and forgot to make phone calls and forgot to take clients out will get destroyed. And
Right.
I'd say 90% of the sales managers I knew all left the business and got fired because all these young people came up and they were pounding the pavement and they were doing social media and they were doing what they needed to do. I literally had a conversation with a director of sales and marketing for a major hotel, $1 billion hotel, and she could not tell me what revenue management was.
Seriously.
She thought she knew what it was, but it was completely different.
Well, yeah, I feel like there's a schism now, especially because the hotel industry is in such great shape that we are losing some of the art of sales and connecting with people in order to make them happy at the hotel experience. So,
Well, not to interrupt you, but if you look at Embassy Suites came up with the breakfast and the continental or the drinks, what, 30 years ago? I actually worked at the first Embassy
I
Suites
love that manager's reception.
in Embassy Suites at Overland Park. In 1986 was my first job, and they did a reception. It took how many years for other people to do that? They didn't do a reception because they wanted to give out free cheap wine and beer. They did it so the sales manager come down and give you a card to all the people in their business.
Right.
And Overland Park is a big corporate city, believe it or not. And there's major players, and to this day, that hotel does really, really well because of that reception that they started 25, 30 years ago.
Right.
So it's about backyard sales. So the answer to your question is, it has to be bought right because so many general managers, so many designers or housekeepers or managers or teams would come in and the hotel fails because there's nothing I can do if I need to make $10 million this month and if I do a $400 average rate and I'm beating my comp set on the star report and I'm running a 146 index, but I can't feed the monster, which is the debt machine, I'm gonna fail. So I always tell people, make sure people can pay their bills before you take a job.
Yeah. I like that. Really good advice for everybody out there, no matter what business you're in. So if you could go back and do any episode of the show over again, would you? Is there a particular one that you wish you could have done a little bit
Well, there's
differently?
two shows I wish to. I'm going to plug again. I wanted to do 5-Star Secrets at Roxbury, which I will eventually get to. I'm dying to do that show. But to do over again, absolutely not.
Yeah,
No,
you feel
no.
like you've hit it out of the, you hit the right notes every single time?
When I'm off, when I leave the show,
Right.
when I leave and I go home, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I
I
bet.
mean, it takes me days to recover. Literally, sometimes it takes me 2 weeks to recover. I'm so spent physically, and so no, I leave it all there, man. And if people don't think I did my job, I always say I'm going to do the best I can. If the best I can is not good enough, then it's good enough for me because it's all I can do.
So what percentage of people that you've worked with at these hotels actually follow through with everything and are able to get that footing that they were so hoping when they invited you?
I know you're not going to believe this, but that's not the first time I was asked that question.
Really?
No.
That's shocking to me.
Okay, and I always say it this way. When you look at other shows, like restaurant shows or whatever, and you look and you go back and you say, oh my God, they have such a bad, track record. That's just the restaurant business, right? 99% of restaurants aren't alive in 5 years, especially a hotel restaurant, right? They change every second. We have a pretty good, I'd say about 70% track record. But that's really not just because of the show. It's because there's so much money involved that banks and investors will give them time to kind of turn it around.
Right.
So we have a pretty good track record. A little bit because of the show, and a little bit because it's just, and also you got to figure out, this is the one thing that's amazing to me. I come in, yes, and I give advice, and yes, we give you things, but what's the biggest thing that they get from our show? Being on national television.
Right.
So the time the show airs, some of the people don't do what I say. There's one show that actually does very, very well, But I remember begging.
Yeah.
I was in California. I said, your website's going to crash because
Right.
it's a wine country. It's a great hotel. You're a great couple. People are going to love and want to stay here. Make sure your website is strong. It crashed.
Yeah.
They're still in business. They're still doing well, but it crashed. They lost all that potential business because they didn't listen to that one thing. So the show is one, yes, I think I know what I'm doing. My team knows what they're doing. But more importantly, if the viewers like the hotel, they're going to go. And they're the ones who are going to change the hotel because they're going to come. But they want to see, one of the things I learned is when people come and watch the show, they kind of want to see you listen to me.
Right.
When you don't listen to me, they get pissed off. And I found that fascinating.
Yeah.
You know, when I sit and watch the show with fans or with friends, like they're literally yelling at the TV what's about to come out of my mouth.
Right. Well, that must be really frustrating for you that people put up such a block that they don't listen to what you have to say.
You know what? I kind of live my life where like we're here for a split second.
Yeah.
So I'm all in all the time, but I move on like about that quick. It's like I'm here, I'm 100% in. I'm not texting my kids. I'm not calling home. I'm not dealing with my businesses. I'm here 4 days. You got me, okay? And I'm not doing anything else. So when I'm done, I'm done.
Right.
And if you want to call me, like somebody did this morning from a show I did in California, I gave her my cell number. I said she did everything I asked her to do. I said, call me if you need anything, and she's called me 3 times this week.
Wow.
And I probably get those calls at least once a week from someplace. So everybody that I think is going to listen and is a nice human being,
Right.
gets my cell number.
That's great, and especially if they're responsive and you can continue to give them advice
I love
all the
it.
time.
I love it. I do it for free. And the one thing I say is I'll never take a penny from them.
That's great.
I'll do consulting the rest of my life. Listen, I am blessed and humbled to be alive, let alone be on the show, right?
Yeah.
So it all comes back to you. And so you do a little bit more, you get a lot more. So it's been great. So, but no, I don't. The first couple of maybe shows, I got stressed out, and I went, why didn't they listen to me? And then I said, maybe you're not that smart.
Right.
So no, I get over it quick, man.
Good. I guess you have to carry that baggage with you. It's just too
You
painful.
know, if not, I don't want to die of an ulcer.
No, well, yeah, that's a great thing to live up to. All right, one more question from you guys.
Come on, design question. Anybody?
I'd love to have another one
Have
from
to
here.
pick on somebody? Okay, I'm going to ask you, what is the latest trend in design? Anyone?
Latest
Anyone?
trend in design.
What's the thing that you're seeing that either is good or bad? Anyone?
I would say, since they're jumping at the bit to answer, I would say the creation of social media moments, I think, is really important with design. The idea of creating something that will get your guests to be engaged and then transmit that to the universe. That's what I think. What about you guys?
I
Yeah?
know some people that do that
All right,
well.
Roxbury says, yeah, I like that. What do you think then?
Anyone? Really? Not one person?
Industrial chic.
Industrial chic.
Okay.
All right, I don't know what that means, but it sounds really good.
Steampunk
Steampunk?
and cement and
I can't hear you.
Reclaimed wood. Oh, yeah. So, is
So
there,
let me, if
Yeah,
you
go
don't
for
mind,
it.
let me ask you a question. When the transition happened in the last 10 years, or 10 years ago, when all the layoffs happened and, you know, do more with less, are you starting to see now when you're going into your clients, they want all the glitz and glamour and they want everything, but they want it for zero money, right? Right? And they're not understanding because you did it for so long during the downturn and you were all kind of pulling out money from your mortgages, from your houses to keep your businesses alive, and they think that that's sustainable.
Right.
Has that happened? You're shaking your head. Anyone want to talk about that? But is that true? So you have to be more creative. So when you're hiring people in your design firms or in your any firm, what are you looking for? What's the most important thing that you're finding when you're hiring someone? All right, this is the quietest group of people.
I know. We got a full house. The people online can't see, but there are a lot of people here. Yet,
passion. It's always passion. You have to look for someone who's very passionate about what they do and what they're going to give to the job.
passionate about what they do.
Right. I hired a housekeeper not too long ago, a housekeeping manager, and she was just not treated well in her career. I'll just say that. And I said, "Why should I hire you?" She started to cry. Say, "I love when someone just comes into the room and they're happy and they feel it's clean, and their kids can play on the floor. And she started to cry about it. She's like, that just gives me so much joy. I hired her, and she's a great housekeeper. She's a great director of housekeeping.
What's her name?
I can't tell you.
I like that. That's one thing that really bothers me. I don't think the housekeeping department gets enough credit. They really pull
they get
everything
zero
together,
credit.
and they're so ignored. And I just read that article, I think it was in the New York Times, talking about how nobody even knows to tip these poor people.
Right.
You know?
Well, if you go on my website, AnthonyMelchiorri.com, you'll see how you should tip people.
Great. So give us a tip. Give us a tip on tips.
Well, this is what I say. First of all, tip housekeepers every day, right?
Yes.
Because, and sometimes I don't follow my own advice. I tip them at the end. Because if you tip them at the end and you're there 5 days, you may be tipping the wrong housekeeper.
Right.
Just the one person that cleaned your room that last day, but not the 4 days. So try to leave something every day. So if you're in a 3-star hotel, right, $5.
Yeah.
Right? $3 to $5 a day. If you're in a 4-star hotel, $5 to $10 a day. And if you're in a 5-star hotel, we're in a 5-star hotel. About $1,000 a day would be right. Right? So, you know, even when I get bad service at the restaurant, I tip well. Because that's their income. That's what they're living on. They ain't living on the hourly wage that they get from their boss, so it's important.
Yeah.
And also, I want to say one other thing. Okay, every one of us are guilty of this. When you call your Uber, okay, and you go out the front door of your hotel and try to ignore your doorman, okay, remember you're taking money out of his pocket. So get the Uber, let him open the damn door for you and give him a tip. Okay, because the one thing I hear about all the bellmen and doormen in this industry in New York City is that their salaries have gone down 60%.
Jeez.
Because we're all, and again, guilty of it. Okay, even when I was just in a really beautiful 5-star hotel and I wouldn't let the guy take my luggage, I gave him a tip anyway because I just needed my luggage with me. And I wasn't in the mood to wait because I had to get to a keynote speech and I just needed to get to my luggage. But I tipped him anyway. You know, we forget that those people are not making a lot of money. So when you do streamline and we do the Ubers and we do the wheels, luggage, you are taking milk off the table of people, you know, and I think that that's really important.
All right, so you're not going to believe this. We're just about out of time. So perhaps
I'm not going anywhere.
a good final thought and stuff from you.
I am absolutely beyond humbled that people in this industry want to hear from me. And, you know, growing up in this business, you know, I remember coming out of the Air Force and pointing when I was driving down the FDR and looking at the city, and I go, I want to make a dent in that city. And, you know, to be allowed to do that and to be allowed to be involved in this industry is just a blessing, and I'm humbled. And hopefully I've never done anything on TV that's embarrassed us. I've told the truth, and sometimes that's embarrassing.
I love what you do, and one of the things that I think I'm most favorite about the show is when you actually teach them practical stuff that then I could take and incorporate to when I'm doing speeches and stuff on stage or in one of our great podcasts together.
And you know what's so funny? One of the things I find as I travel around the country and the world is almost 90% of the people that stop me have nothing to do with the hotel business. I literally got stopped in Vegas airport by a guy who's about 18 feet tall, and he ran some kind of basketball program.
Right.
And he said I turned around his company, or by watching our show, helped him turn around his company. I have a friend of mine in Hollywood who's, if I told you his shows, you would know him. He found me by watching the show.
Wow.
And he said, hey, I want to learn more about kind of management. And we've become friends, dear friends to this day. And so it's really, what I'm so happy to know is just by being true to Business 101, it's the same business problems that translate to every single business. And what is it? Take care of the employee. The guest isn't the most important person, it's your employee. Okay? And if you haven't got that memo so far, you're probably not number one in your business. Number two, take care of your product. Take care of yourself. And if you do those three things well, then you can get to your customers.